Father, bless our lesson. Thank you for the blessings that we've had, and that the blessings would continue. Father, those that have not experienced a recent blessing, that you would give that to them, Father, that they can point and say, Jesus is active in my life now and watching out for me. In Christ's name I pray, amen. All right, Acts chapter 5, we are going to begin with the outline. In verses 1 through 11, we know the story. I think we did this last week. We may have done this last week. The sin in the church, it's the problem with Ananias and Sapphira. The miracles in the church. It talks about, let's see, verses 12 through 16. It says here they wrought among the people, many signs and wonders were done, verses 12 through 16. All right, verses 17 through 28, the persecution of the church. When that had occurred, the Sadducees and the ruling class came in and arrested them and threw them all into prison, the persecution of the church. Then in verses 29 through 32, the decision of the church was to obey God rather than men. All right, we need to always obey God rather than men. Are we tempted sometimes not to obey God? We are tempted not to obey God. We're tempted to do that. Listen, I made choices in my life 30 years ago. Was to, am I going to go the route of America? America the beautiful, we're going to go. Listen, everybody wants to come to America. As a general rule. Why?
Freedom.
It's so easy to terrorize.
Freedom, well, not terrorists. Freedom, let's get away from the terrorists. Freedom.
Opportunity.
Opportunity to do what?
Preach the gospel.
Oh, you give me a hard time.
Improve their lot in life.
To make a living, to make money. You got off the boat in 1910, they would say everybody in America is a what? A millionaire. Now, is that true?
Yeah.
It is not true. It is not true. But the hope of being one and the possibility, Brother Welsh had told me, even Italy was still on a, I didn't realize this, that Mussolini organized Italy and got it basically all under one flag, that it was still a territorial or a...
Yeah, until like 1890 or something like that. They were all little city-states.
1890, it was still city-states. And then whoever, it wasn't Mussolini, but near
Yeah,
Mussolini.
there was unification.
That it was unified in this, in Germany, all these type of countries, that they probably still had the baron type mentality. In England, who owns the manor house? It's the House of Lords.
Right.
They lorded it over the people, and you have all these serfs serving. And what would we have been? If you weren't related, folks, you were forking it over, literally, the hay into the Lord's wagon. You know, we would be serfs. We would be right now scrounging around for wood to try to stay warm in England, and looking for cow pies, frozen cow pies to burn. You know, oh, awful. Yes.
In Ireland, they burned peat.
Oh, they burn peat. Oh, yeah, a peat bog can catch on fire, can't it?
My great-grandfather came from Ireland in 1856 from living in a stone cottage in a little farm and burning peat.
So peat moss, or peat, whatever that is,
Yeah, peat balls.
can catch on fire,
Yeah, it's dried out.
and it can burn. They say coal can burn for years. If it hits the surface, if it catches on fire, it can burn underground for years and then surface again where the coal comes up, finally hit that and start a forest fire. I hear that's true, like in West Virginia.
There's a couple of mines in eastern Pennsylvania that have been burning for years.
They're still on fire,
You know,
right now in
I
West
believe they
Virginia.
still are, yes.
All right, so it's still hot, it's still burning. And coal does burn hot. It burns very, very hot. All right, so persecution of the church. The decision of the church is to obey God rather than men. All right, the handling of the church is that the doctor, this Pharisee Gamaliel, if I'm pronouncing that right, reasoned with the rulers that if we fight against these people and God is with them, you'll find yourself fighting against God. You don't want to do that. So they decided to hands off, let it run its course, and they were hoping that it would run its course and then dissipate and come to naught. That it would just, give me a good word for that. It would crumble, it would be over. Name some efforts in this country that are over. Oh, folks, I have run through the black book. We have a black book. Company has the address book. You have your black book. We run through it. When my dad was still alive, we ran through it. He would run through, because he's World War II. This guy's dead, this guy's dead, this guy went broke, this guy did this company's broke. And we would eliminate them out of the book, right? It's just like our directory. It happens. And so I've gone through the black book maybe 2 times on my own where these companies are gone. And it dissolves. It goes away. People move away. You know, yes.
East Lake Light Plant is out of the picture.
Say that again?
East Lake Light Plant is gone.
Oh, yeah, you know what? That was a month or 2 ago, isn't it?
Yeah, Obama killed it.
All right, that's East Lake. Is that the...
It's a boiler. It's a boiler.
Is that the Is that the Cleveland Muni plant?
No.
Because it was Kucinich that... Did Kucinich want to get rid of the Muni Light?
No, he wanted to keep Muni Light.
He wanted to keep... Is Muni Light running?
Muni Light hasn't generated a kilowatt since 1975. They buy all their power from Niagara Falls.
All right, Muni Light is gone.
The Division of Light and Electric still exists in the city of Cleveland. They still operate, but they don't generate power.
They just funnel it. They funnel it, but they don't have, the boilers aren't running.
No.
Okay. How did they fire that? With coal?
Yeah.
They're probably steam, yeah, so they're coal.
So it was coal fired. All right, you got to generate the heat. The heat was coal.
But the one across the street and up the way a little bit, that's being torn down. That's
I personally don't know about that, but I did hear it on the news. Gone.
That's the one being torn down. That was the illuminating company.
All right, that's gone.
But they got a nice picture of dolphins up there that don't live in the lake.
So the handling of the church, they handled it that if this is of God, you'll be fighting against God. If it isn't of God, it's just going to dissolve anyway. You know, it'll go on the ash heap of history. It did not end up on the ash heap of history because it is real. Folks, this is as real as you and I are standing here, or sitting here. Jesus is real. All right. And the dedication of the church, it ended in 41 and 42, that they rejoiced, they were counted worthy to suffer shame for his name, and daily in the temple, in every house, they ceased not to preach Jesus Christ. They were dedicated. Folks, you need to always be dedicated to the Lord. You're dedicated to your job. You need to be dedicated to your job. Dedicated to your job, dedicated to your spouse, dedicated to your children, dedicated to your family. Depends, on how far that goes with Christ. Folks, when I got saved, folks, there was extreme persecution. Within the house, within the household of Tuckers, there was persecution there. And but dedication to the church, dedicated to Jesus. Amen. There's got to be there needs to be dedication. All right, that's the sin in the church. Verse 1. A certain man named Ananias and Sapphira, his wife, sold a possession. So there is the giving, or tithes and offerings. And tithes and offerings are listed in Malachi. And you said that we touched on this. It says, how have you robbed God? I'll tell you how you robbed. God tells them, I'll tell you how you robbed me, in tithes and offerings. All right, so the tithe is what we would say it is a duty to give, and the other is a delight. But we ended up going over to 2 Corinthians 9, verse 7. Did we get that far? See, I didn't mark down. I went through this just now. I was looking, and I did not. I always write down start. I didn't. That God loveth a cheerful giver. We need to be cheerfully giving. Special offerings, and I don't feel since anybody have any insight on that? And then we'll go ahead and do it. We'll go ahead and do it. All right. Offerings would be special offerings. Tithe means tenth. If you earn $1,000 in a week, there are people that earn $1,000 in a week. There are people that earn $1 million every week. $1 million every week. Which lot of people have that? You know, $1,000 a week. If you earn $100 a week. If you earn $100 a week, what do you tithe? $10. A tenth. That's the tithe. In the law, why would a man, if he finally went broke, how would the family get it back? You're broke. You lost all of it. You actually sold yourself. How would you get it back? In the law, the Jewish law. We're not under the law, but in some cases it's good to... in the year of Jubilee, which is every 50 years, all the possessions went back to the family. That the rich man, if he gobbled up everybody else's riches, he'd have to give everything back to the original owners. So that original family, it would have been the children or the grandchildren, would eventually get it back. I get my land back. And then they stopped doing that. They didn't want to obey the law because it was nice to keep the money. Yes?
Is there any recording in the Bible of that
Actually taking place. Now, I would assume people did it, but to say that they all did it, I don't know. It sounds to, there. You're right.
I have not seen it.
You don't see that. The keeping of the Passover. How often does that occur? They'll say all the way up to Zechariah, or Hezekiah. Hezekiah, they'll say, we haven't had a Passover like this since the days of Joshua. You know, they'll say those things. Like, you know, what happened all those other years? They just didn't even do it. Now, to say that Jewish people did not do it, we can't go that far, but to find a record, or they actually did it at the temple, or they performed the Passover for this reminder of them getting out of Egypt. You know, they can't do it as a nation. It's far and few between to find that actually occurring. Far and few between. So anyway, it was special offerings to alleviate the poor church members. Acts 2:45. Turn there. They shared and shared alike. Chapter 2, verse 45. And now the best, and I've said it many times, and sold their possessions and goods, parted them to all men, as every man had need. As they had need, they parted that. And so it's to alleviate, help poor church members. And they shared in that. And we say that it sounds like the government is communism. But Bruce Musselman's explanation of that is the best I've ever heard. Is communism is this: what's yours is mine. They take it. The government takes it. And what does that do for incentive for the people? Zero. There's zero incentive because we're all serfs. It goes to the Lord, and it drives them to do what? What's the main drink in vodka? It drives them to the vodka. So the whole half the country is smashed on the vodka. What's the use? They're going to take it anyway. So that's communism. Capitalism, how you and I live. What's mine is mine. You're not getting it. All right? Everybody's a millionaire, but really not everybody's a millionaire. They're far and few between, and it's one big battle to get it. And then, but Christianity is what's mine is yours. The willingness with the heart to share that and give it away. All right? And it is giving. Acts 4, verse 32. The multitude that believed were of one heart, one soul. Neither said any of them that aught of the things which he possessed was his own, but they had all things common. Where we had just ended up with Barnabas here, which is Joseph, which means the son of consolation. He sold, what does it say he sold? For as many possessed of lands or houses, plural. Let's see, what did he sell? Having land. Having land. It doesn't say lands. It could have been one property. Who knows? It says land. Yeah, but how do we interpret land? It doesn't say lands. And could land be a plural? Lands? He had land. Land here, land there. I don't know. We don't know. But he sold it, and he gave it. That doesn't mean he gave everything he had, but he gave what he desired to give. First 1 Corinthians 16. Turn there if you would. 1 Corinthians 16, verse 3. When I come, whomsoever ye shall prove by your letters, them will I send to bring your liberality unto Jerusalem. All right, they were to gather this, verse 2, upon the first day of the week. Sunday is the first day of the week. It is not Saturday, it is, or Monday. It is Sunday. And they were to gather, and then they were to alleviate the poor with that. Acts 11, we're talking about a dearth, a drought in Jerusalem, and the disciples, the saints at Jerusalem was going to be poor. This is the story. Agabus, a great dearth throughout all the world, which came to pass in the days of Claudius Caesar. And they sent the relief unto the brethren. Then the disciples, every man according to his ability, verse 29, determined to send relief unto the brethren which dwelt at Judea. And they sent it by the hands of Barnabas and Saul. And they completed their task by the end of Acts 12, if you go to Acts 12, verse 24 and 25. But the word of God grew and multiplied. Barnabas and Saul returned from Jerusalem. Obviously, they had completed their task when they had fulfilled their ministry, that was delivering this money, and took with them John, whose surname was Mark. So they picked up John, and they picked up Silas along the way somehow, either there or when they end up at Antioch. They get these extra, and some of them decide not to go back. But they had fulfilled that. Now the tithe or the tenth, it was performed there in the days of Abraham. And who did he give the tenth to of the spoils? Melchizedek. Did Melchizedek have father or mother?
Nope.
He had no father or mother. He was a priest, high priest. He was no father, no mother. So Melchizedek is a type of Christ or a type of God. Christ had, now we know he has God the Father, but there's no mother. No, God has no father, no mother. So when Paul gives the argument in Hebrews, we assume it's Paul, we don't know the author, in chapters 5 and especially chapter 7, he uses Melchizedek as the illustration of Jesus, that he is better than the priests that were that ministered for the sins of the people. Is that Jesus only died once, where only gave the offering one time, where a priest would have to continually do that because his sins yet remained. And the priest would have to make offerings for his own sin, where Jesus didn't have to do that. And so it's a type of Christ. All right, in Jacob, he did that in Genesis 28. Moses did it in Leviticus 27. Malachi, in the time of the prophets, in Malachi 3. Jesus, let's go ahead and turn there in the New Testament. But you have neglected, he talks about, this is the chapter of the woes. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees. Matthew 23, verse 23. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin. That is some kind of a harvest type tithe, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, mercy, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought ye to have done, and not to leave the other undone. He doesn't say don't stop tithing, but you got the cart before the horse. So the idea here is judgment, mercy, and faith. I liken that unto salvation. Judgment, that we are all sinners, that judgment has been made, and God extends mercy for the payment for that judgment and sin in the form of Jesus Christ, and you are to exercise your faith in that. Right? Judgment, mercy, faith. But they were tithing and they neglected salvation. They were doing the tithing, but not the salvation portion. All right, Paul in 1 Corinthians 16. 1 Corinthians 16, verse 2. Upon the first day, we already covered this one. Upon the first day of the week, let every one of you lay up by him in stores, God hath prospered him. That there be no gatherings when I come. Where they didn't take... We have really refrained from taking and passing the bucket. Now, we've only done this, and I don't even know where are they? Oh, they're back there. Okay, the baskets are here, but they're not up here. They're up front. We've only been passing the basket for, let's say, 10 years. We never passed a basket. It was always in that box. It's still in the box. People drop it in there, put it in the basket, either way. But my uncle would come and he wouldn't know where to put the money because I never announced it. And my aunt and uncle would be halfway home and they'd say, we didn't know where to put our tithe. We didn't know where to put the money, and you never took up an offering. And so we eventually started doing that. But we've been in churches where they take up one in Sunday school. The adult Sunday school has one. Well, then all the classes in a big church has a Sunday school offering. Well, I could never figure that out. Then you get into service, and then they take an offering. Then they take one for missions in there. Then they'll have several offerings throughout the week. Then they do one on Wednesday. Folks, we only do it once a week. What's the sense of doing it on and on and on and on? But we just don't do that. 1 Corinthians 9. So it's alleviate the poor church members. It's to pay. It's to keep the lights on. The lights have to be on. The heat has to be on. The carpet has to be paid for. The preacher needs to be paid. 1 Corinthians 9, verses 6 through 14. He says, or I only and Barnabas have not we power to forbear working. So to stop working. Now, I've always worked, and I don't plan to stop working. I enjoy working. And Paul does write where he supplied all of what he needed to where for his own needs and for those that traveled with him. There's a verse that says he did that. And he was helped by the Philippians, that they sent him an offering where others didn't, wherever he was staying. So it was on and off. He would work and also take offerings. But who goeth to warfare anytime his own charges? So he gives the illustration of a soldier. If a soldier is enlisted in this case drafted, whatever, in the Army, they get their base pay. They get paid. All right, the government pays that. Verse 9, for it is written in the law of Moses, thou shalt not muzzle the mouth of the ox that treadeth out the corn. It says here in verse 7, if he plants a vineyard, he eats of the vineyard. If he feeds a flock, he eats of the flock. In other words, he is, and they do say something about reaping the carnal things. Verse 11, if we have sown unto you spiritual things, sowing is like seeds. Seeds grow, and when those seeds grow, it produces eventually a crop that can be harvested. So if we sow unto you spiritual things, is it a great thing if we shall reap your carnal things? So the carnal things is the offering, the tithes and offering. Giving is a grace. 2 Corinthians 8. Turn there. And we're going to stop here. We won't finish this. And I think we did go through most of this, but I'm going to put down the word start, and that's where we'll start. In 2 Corinthians 8, it's all about giving. Look at verse 6. Insomuch that we desire Titus, that as he had begun, so he would also finish in you the same grace also. Now, the grace is the grace of giving. Therefore, as you abound in everything. In other words, grace for grace. When you got saved, God gave you grace, or God's riches at Christ's expense. You got saved your soul. Well, the giving goes beyond that. Giving goes beyond just salvation. Therefore, as you abound in everything, in faith, all right, so people's faith can increase. In utterance, being able to witness. In knowledge, the knowledge of Christ. And in all diligence, being diligent. And in your love to us, see that ye abound in this grace also. As these graces are extended. And by the way, who gets grace? Humble people. And and we got to tell Starla, the first word on our prayer list is humility. Is it spelled right? It's missing the Y. It's been that way for months. We need to get that fixed. Humility. Humble people receive grace. And if you're not a humble person, you don't get it. God giveth grace to the humble. So humility. And so all these graces can be given. And then people need to see that we are a gracious people. We can give that we are become gracious people. All right, so it must be done, as it says in verse 3, I bear record, yea, and beyond their power, they were willing of themselves. Willing, and that was to give of their own selves. And this they did, verse 5, not as we hope, but first gave their own selves to the Lord. All right, giving of yourself to the Lord. I am dedicated, I give myself to you, Lord. Unto thee, O Lord. How does that go?
Do I lift up my soul?
Oh, do I lift up my soul? Is that a song? That is a song. And it's a chorus. I think we learned that when we were at the Mennonite church. They had all these yuppie type 1980s choruses. Unto thee, O Lord, do I lift up my soul? I don't remember the words.
Unto thee, O Lord.
That is a song.
Do I lift up my soul? Oh my God, I trust in thee.
Really? Okay. So a lot of those psalms, I shouldn't say a lot, there's a few of them that are very rhythmic and make a good song. And that's one of them. You know, there's a few. You could come up with at least a half a dozen. What does psalm mean?
Sing it.
It does mean song. They would sing those. And how many were enlisted in Leviticus to do that? Musicians, singers, and the temple. Anybody recall a number? Pardon? Say that again? No, well, there were 120 priests. Yeah, that's like unto the 120 that were in the upper room. Now, I think it's 20,000, I'm pretty sure, that were continually lifting up praise and singing and doing the instruments. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's 20,000. There's a bunch of them. They probably did it in ships, you know. But anyway, let's stop there. It's a willingness. They give of their own selves. Listen, does he own you lock, stock, and barrel? Lock, stock, and barrel. The whole thing. And we are going to start there. We already discussed the grace. The grace I'm going to put down start, and we're going to start right there next week. We are not going backwards. We will be going, as we say, always, forward. Father, bless now the preaching to follow. In Christ's name, amen.